If you've ever felt like the invisible kid in your own family, the one they only notice when you mess up, then yeah, you might want to stick around, because this isn't just another one of those revenge stories. This one nearly cost me my life. Growing up, I knew exactly where I stood in my family. My sister Melanie, she was the golden one, 2 years older, always glowing under a spotlight my parents never even aimed in my direction. They called her our little miracle. Me? I was the surprise, not the good kind. I came into this world early, sick, and apparently very inconvenient. I had a congenital heart defect that had me in and out of hospitals more times than I could count. But it wasn't the illness that hurt the most, it was how my parents treated it. Instead of comforting me, they blamed me. I can still hear my mum muttering to my dad after one of my surgeries, "If we didn't have these hospital bills, we could have bought that lake house by now." Like I was the reason they couldn't have a better life. Like I was the burden holding everyone back. Meanwhile, Melanie got everything. Dance classes, sports camps, birthday parties with bouncy castles and pony rides. My birthdays? Sometimes they forgot. And when they did remember, it was a half-hearted, "we'll do something next weekend," that never came. I stopped hoping after I turned 10. But I kept trying. I studied hard, even when I was sick. I smiled through the pain. I cheered for Melanie at her volleyball games, even though I was never once invited to bring a friend to mine, because I didn't have any. Being the sick kid doesn't make you popular. Still, I thought that maybe, just maybe, if I did everything right, they'd see me, notice me, love me the way they loved her. But I was always the shadow to her spotlight, the one they forgot to mention in family Christmas cards, the one they didn't even bother to show up for when I won my first writing contest in 6th grade. They had another event that day, Melanie's science fair. She got 3rd place. I got nothing but silence. Looking back, I realise I spent most of my childhood trying to earn a place I was never truly given. I just wanted to be part of them, to feel like I mattered. But no matter how much I gave, how much I sacrificed, I was always just the girl they barely remembered when things were going well, and the first one they blamed when they weren't. But I didn't know then that all that pain, all that quiet suffering, was just the start. Because years later, after complete silence from them, my parents came back, smiling. And they didn't come to apologise. They came with a plan, and this time they weren't just going to ignore me. They were going to use me. I knew I had to get away. By the time I graduated high school, I was done, mentally, emotionally, completely done, with trying to prove anything to my family. All those years of smiling through pain, begging for their attention, hoping for even a sliver of love. And for what? So when I got my acceptance letter to a university several states away, I didn't even hesitate. I packed my things, hugged my grandparents, who had always been my only source of real affection, and left without looking back. They paid for my tuition, by the way. Not my parents, not a single cent. College was the first time I ever felt like I could breathe. I wasn't the sick one anymore. I wasn't the disappointment. I was just Vanessa. And for once, that was enough. That's also where I met Andrew. He didn't flinch when I told him about my heart condition. He didn't try to fix me or treat me like I was fragile. He just stayed. He listened when I talked about my childhood. And when I cried about feeling like a burden, he held my hand and told me I wasn't. You ever meet someone who makes you feel like maybe you weren't crazy all along? Like maybe you were worthy of love, you just weren't getting it from the right people? If you've ever been in that place, where love finally feels real, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. You're not alone. A few years later, Andrew proposed. His family was thrilled. His mom helped me pick out my wedding dress, and his dad cried when we sent them the save the date. When I told my parents I was getting married, they barely reacted. My mom said, "That's nice," and followed it up with, "Don't expect any help from us. We just spent a fortune on Melanie's wedding last year." No congratulations. No, we're proud of you. Just a cold reminder that once again, I was not the priority. They didn't show up. Not my dad, not my mum, not even Melanie. No calls, no card, nothing. It was like I didn't exist. Meanwhile, Andrew's family flew in early to help us set up. His cousins decorated the venue. His mum brought her grandmother's necklace to lend me as something old. That moment, that's when it hit me. This is what family is supposed to feel like. Not guilt, not conditions, just love. And for the first time in my life, I didn't miss my parents. I didn't even think about them when I walked down the aisle, because the truth is, they had already left me behind a long time ago. It had been years since I heard from them. After my wedding, the silence from my parents was deafening, but not surprising. I told myself I was fine with it, that I didn't need them. And for a while, I actually believed it. Then one day the phone rang. It was my mum. Her voice was softer than I remembered. She asked how I'd been. She said she missed me. She told me they were proud of the life I'd built, how she'd heard about my writing, how I'd grown into such a strong woman. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up, but another part, an older part, the version of me that once stood in the hallway as a child hoping to be noticed, she still wanted it to be real. That version of me won. A few weeks later, we moved back to my hometown. Not because of them, though. My grandfather, my mom's dad, was declining fast. He was the only one in my family who had ever shown me unconditional love. I wanted my son to know him, even if just for a little while. When my mum heard we were coming back, she invited us to dinner. "Just something small," she said. "We'd love to catch up." Andrew was hesitant. "You sure this isn't a setup?" he asked. I laughed it off, but truthfully, I wasn't sure. Still I went. The house hadn't changed. Same cold lighting, same family portraits, all centered around Melanie. But this time, my mum greeted me with a hug. My dad smiled. Even Melanie looked me in the eye and said, "I'm glad you're here." That should have been the first red flag. Dinner was lasagna, my favourite, candles, wine. It felt too perfect, but I wanted to believe. Halfway through, Melanie cleared her throat and said she had a surprise. She pulled a thick white envelope from her purse, sealed with a gold sticker. "We wanted to give this to you together," she said, sliding it across the table. I opened it. At first I thought it was a thank you card, maybe even a family photo. It wasn't. It was a pre-written surrogacy contract, a full-blown legal document outlining that I, Vanessa Hartley, would carry Melanie's biological child. I blinked, thinking surely this was some sick joke, but when I looked up, all three of them were watching me, smiling, like this was supposed to be a happy moment, like this wasn't insane. "I can't do this," I whispered, my voice catching. "I physically can't. The doctors said—" "You'll be fine," my mum interrupted, waving her hand. "Don't be dramatic." My dad leaned in. "This is family, Vanessa. You should be honoured." Melanie stayed quiet, but her smug little smile said everything. And in that moment, I realised they hadn't changed at all. They didn't come back to apologise. They came back because they needed something from me, something dangerous, something they never once asked if I wanted to give. That dinner? It wasn't a reconciliation. It was a setup, and I was the main course. After that dinner, I couldn't sleep, not because I was reconsidering it. No, my answer was, and still is, no, but because I couldn't believe they thought I would actually agree, that I'd risk my life again for a sister who never even called me after I gave birth, and for parents who hadn't asked me a single real question in years. I told Andrew everything. He was furious. He kept pacing the living room, hands on his head, saying over and over, "This can't be real." It felt surreal. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. No follow-up calls, no texts, just silence. Then one morning my grandmother called. Her voice was shaking. "Sweetheart," she said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but your parents are planning something." I overheard them talking about lawyers, about taking legal action. I almost dropped the phone. Legal action? For what? She continued, "They're trying to find a way to claim you as their last medical option. They've been gathering your old hospital records, saying if Melanie has no other way, a judge might force the issue." My stomach dropped. It wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was strategic, calculated. They didn't care that I'd almost died giving birth to my son, didn't care that another pregnancy could kill me. They just saw me as a vessel, an insurance policy with a name. That night I couldn't hold it in. I broke down, not from fear, but from betrayal. Because this wasn't just about surrogacy. This was about every moment I'd been overlooked, ignored, treated like I was less. And now, suddenly, I was useful. So they were ready to put on smiles, cook my favourite meal, and lawyer up if I dared say no. Andrew held me through the tears, then looked me straight in the eye and said, "We're calling a lawyer." So we did. The woman we spoke to was incredible, calm, clear. She told us flat out, "No one can force you to be a surrogate, especially with a medical history like yours." But she also said, "That doesn't mean they won't try to scare you into it." That's exactly what they were doing, and this time I wasn't going to let them. When I agreed to meet my mom alone, I knew it wouldn't end well. Andrew didn't like it. My gut didn't either. But some stubborn part of me, some tired little girl still hoping to be understood, wanted to believe she might come clean, maybe even apologize. We met at a quiet coffee shop near the edge of town. She was already there when I arrived, sipping a cappuccino like this was any regular afternoon. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, as if nothing had happened. No mention of the contract, no mention of the threats. I sat down, silent. She jumped straight into it. "Mary's been crying every day," she began. "This whole situation has been so hard for all of us. You know she's always dreamed of being a mother." There it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "we were wrong." Just more guilt, more manipulation. I let her speak. "We've been doing research," she continued, leaning in. "There are ways to make it work. Your condition isn't as limiting as you think. You're her only chance, Vanessa, the only one who can give her what she needs." I looked her in the eye, calm. "I almost died," I said quietly. "Do you even remember that?" She blinked. "Well, it worked out in the end, didn't it? You have a healthy son." The rage in my chest burned like fire, but I didn't raise my voice. "You're not asking me to help," I said. "You're trying to control me. Again." She opened her mouth, but I stood up. "I'm done, Mom." I walked out. No yelling, no crying, just silence, and a freedom I didn't know I was allowed to feel. Back home, Andrew wrapped me in his arms the second I stepped through the door. "How'd it go?" he asked. I smiled. "It's over," I said. "Really over." And for the first time in my life, I meant it. The weeks after that final coffee shop meeting were quiet. Too quiet, actually. No more texts, no more calls, no more "please think about it" messages. It was like they'd finally realized I wasn't going to fold. Then, one afternoon, a single message came through from my mum. "We're disappointed in you. You've let the family down." That was it. No apology, no reflection, just one final attempt to make me feel small. But for once, I didn't feel anything at all. No anger, no heartbreak, no shame, just clarity. I stared at the message for a second, then deleted it, blocked the number. And when I did, it was like something unhooked inside me, something that had been knotted there since I was a little girl standing in the kitchen, waiting for someone to notice her. I looked at Andrew. "It's done," I said. He nodded. Finally. We packed up a month later and moved to a different part of the state, somewhere quieter, where no one knew our names, where my son could run barefoot in the grass and never have to hear about family obligations that were never about love to begin with. I still think about them sometimes, my parents, Melanie, but not with sadness, with relief, because now I see them for who they are, not the family I lost, just people I no longer allow to define me. And if you've ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you unconditionally, but only showed up when they needed something, then you know, there's no revenge more powerful than peace. Now, when I look at my son's face, I know I broke the cycle. He'll never have to question if he's wanted. He'll never feel like a tool to be used. He'll grow up in a home where love isn't earned, it's simply given. And that, to me, is everything. Have you ever had to choose peace over family? I know it's not easy, but if this story hit close to home, or if you've ever had to let go of someone toxic to protect your own heart, I'd really love to hear your story in the comments. You never know who might feel less alone because of it.